I had a dream where I was in the Chernobyl exclusion zone doing contracts as a mercenary. I went and saw different places and different people, and saw many different things, for better and for worse. I was in a mercenary base when I decided to visit the rookie village in the cordon. When I looked over the area on my PDA, there was an important character and I think a mechanic stationed in an abandoned house. My first attempt at making my way there was disastrous. I was on the back of a jeep being driven on the way to the safe house when an emission struck. I could see the screaming, howling wave of destruction coursing through the land, engulfing me and the driver, but I snapped out of it and found myself back at the base. I opted to fast travel instead. Outside the house I was confused. Short of spawning right in the rookie village, I was confronted by a seemingly normal house. When I went inside, there were stairs leading up to the second floor. I went upwards and was greeted by an elder mercenary, possibly using an exoskeleton. His name must have been Jackal or Black, and he asked what I was there for. I told him I was looking for work, and he laughed in my face and told me something, I don't know what. After wandering around the house for a bit, I found a family celebrating an occasion on the Mediterranean. A memory flashed in my eyes. I was with someone on the docks of a familiar city and we were talking. I was suddenly brought back to the zone and returned to the base. I had taken up a contract from Dushman to capture documents from the enemy in Red Forest, east of the bridge and basically into Limansk. I could see the stash on my map. I debated between going through army warehouses or going through the Limansk entrance to the Red Forest, and after much deliberation I reasoned going through army warehouses would be better. No point in getting ambushed in enemy territory. I walked through army warehouses and hit a checkpoint of dutiers, loaners and freedomers in the northern farmstead. They were arguing amongst themselves on some kind of matter that necessitated a truce, and they turned to me to settle their argument. I was confused, trying to ask for directions. They eventually let me go and I was on my way. I checked my relations with the other factions. I was neutral with freedomers and bandits, but I was enemies with everyone else, so I have no idea what the previous engagement was about. I'm not sure if I ever made it to the stash, but when I returned to home base I had classified documents to turn in. I noticed different things. The basement to the underground was open, to a gravelly underground that wasn't even fully covered by a ceiling. And you could see what little the unclouded sky break through the purposeful holes in the roof. And the area was very open, dangerous against snipers. I heard gunfire, or I sensed it, and turned around to see a great complex, much taller than our pitiful home base. I could see the enemy, Monolith and Saint Cortis, two peas in a terrible pod. I ran downstairs to shield myself from enemy fire as many of my fellow mercenaries entered into battle. If I had to fight, I'd do it on my own terms. So I went upstairs and accessed my stash and found it, the Scat 9M combat suit. I took off the equivalent of my light combat suit and began putting pieces of the combat suit on my body. After being assured of adequate protection from bullets, I took out my rifle, an M16A4, which was modded with an M203 grenade launcher, reflex sight, and silencer, and began firing into the buildings, using the stairs into the basement for cover. I fired short bursts of 5.56 into the opposing building, taking out several of the enemy. I think we eventually killed enough of them to force them to fall back. Firing felt like a mix of VR and playing anomaly, but I managed well enough. The most terrible part of this was that everything was grainy and hard to see, and I was hit multiple times and was forced to use medical items. But we survived. I survived. To live another day in this hellhole, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm paraphrasing here from a mercenary broadcaster. It is addressed to veteran mercs, but it could apply to all of us, including me and you. Sometimes I think about life before. Friends, family, lovers, barbecues, movies, get-togethers. Was it really as good as I thought it was? Or was it some made-up delusion to fill the silence? I guess I don't know. It keeps me up at night. There is, however, another earlier dream I had that I wish I didn't. Because it exposed an ugly truth to this hobby, job, whatever you call it, this pastime of mine. At least it explains why my mind runs away to the zone, to hide from my past. I was with a squad of fellow mercenaries when we were ambushed by the enemy. Monolith, I think. We were ambushed in some kind of industrial complex. I took cover inside a building and fired my rifle at the enemy. I took hits and had to heal myself at times, bandaging myself and applying first aid. It was then when I finally shouted something along the lines of, "Where the fuck is everyone?" No one answered my plea. When I went to look out another time, I'd run out of ammo for my M16 or it had a malfunction, so I took out an AK-74 and loaded a magazine in. A pulse anomaly began to stir above me and I was forced to move positions. I think it was raining and I was under fire, so I ran as fast as I could, dodging the anomaly and the bullets, and fought back against the enemy. I don't know if I killed all my enemies or if I ran like hell back to base. Arriving at base, an old auto shop of some kind, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. I went out the back of the garage, walking through wide open garage doors to see a nice lakeside view of a small lake or a big pond, and I saw someone waiting there. It was a girl that I had fallen in love with years ago, but whose relations I utterly destroyed following an incident. It was nice to see her again. It felt like a breath of fresh air. She was wearing the merc suit. I could see the eagle patch on the side of her hood. I approached her. We talked for a bit, and it eventually grew more emotional and deep. I had gone through hell the past few years, and I was finally reunited again with the person I'd loved one-sidedly once again in my dreams. I knew what came next was to be hard. Harder than I thought was possible. She told me not to wait for her, but to go find the real her, in real life. I think I cried. I think I stood there, soaking it all in, but I like to think that I smiled. Knowing that for once in the past 2 years of personally inflicted hell, all that I worked for was not in vain. That I was getting better. That I wasn't chasing after a ghost. That I could be free from my past, not shackling myself to the premonition of a person I once loved, in dreams and in life. It was good, I think, to not shackle yourself, to not be limited, but that's just my thought on the matter. Colonel Yuri, over and out.